Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I have another book haul for you today, and I am also going to tell you about some of my recent reads and my current reads. So let's go ahead and get started. So just have kind of like a mini book haul. I just have 3 new old books, because I got them from a used bookstore. So yeah, I love used bookstores. So nice, you can get so many books for such a cheap price. Like, all this together maybe cost me like €4 or something for these 3 books. So you can save so much money, and you also support the circular economy. So we love that here. Relax and support the circular economy with me. Thank you. Okay, so the first book that I got is White Oleander, and honestly I don't really know much about what this is about. I think I read that something about a girl and her mother is a murderer or something. I just remember having seen like the cover in a lot of lists of like recommended books, so I was like, okay, and it was usually next to a lot of books that I really liked. So I was like, let's go, I'm gonna get it. And what I did was what I usually do. I just read like the first page, see if I like the writing style, and then from there I decide if I'm going to get it or not. Oh my god, that old book smell is the best. That's another great thing about used bookstores. You already have like the smell of the aging pages. They already come prepared. Okay, so I'm gonna do what I did the last time on my book haul and just go ahead and read you the first page, so you yourself can see if maybe this would be a book you'd be interested in getting. Okay. The Santa Anas blew and hot from the desert, shriveling the last of the spring grass into whiskers of pale straw. Only the oleanders thrived, their delicate poisonous blooms, their dagger green leaves. We could not sleep in the hot dry nights, my mother and I. I woke up at midnight to find her bed empty. I climbed to the roof and easily spotted her blonde hair, like a white flame in the light of the 3/4 moon. Oleander time, she said. Lovers who kill each other now will blame it on the wind. She held up her large hand and spread the fingers, let the desert dryness lick through. My mother was not herself in the time of the Santa Anas. I was 12 years old, and I was afraid for her. I wished things were back the way they had been, that Barry was still here, that the wind would stop blowing. You should get some sleep, I offered. I never sleep, she said. I sat next to her, and we stared out at the city that hummed and glittered like a computer chip deep in some unknowable machine, holding its secret like a poker hand. So that is your first page preview of White Oleander. I find the writing really striking, like it's very poetic and really pretty. So I've seen this recommended like everywhere, so this might be one of my first summer reads once I finish my current reads that I will show you in a bit. So my next book in this book haul is My Summer of Love, and I think it's like supposed to be a love story between 2 girls, and it is kind of like dark-ish themed. That's what I gathered anyway from the vibe of the blurb and the everything. So yeah, this is the book, and yeah, I love to see different kinds of representation in books. I don't just like to read the same story, the same love story over and over. So I hope this one will live up to my expectations. And the writing seemed really interesting to begin with. So I will also read you the first page of My Summer of Love. Okay, so the first chapter is called Trifle, and it goes like this. Today, the weather has the exact same temperature it had the day 2 people died. I've never seen the same numbers displayed before, though perhaps because of what happened then, I'm now obsessive and peculiar about weather. I could probably name as many weathermen as jockeys and brands of vodka. It all started with a wedding, if you believe, as I've come to realize most psychiatrists do, that behavioral extremes of any kind are often reactions to loss. It was the 23rd of May, 1984, the day of my sister's wedding. I'll bet not many bookies are taking money on your sister making a success of her second marriage, Porkchop said when the racing came on. A clip showed 2 horses being whipped to a frenzy for the finish, a throng of gamblers clinging to the rails, delirious with hope. She's your sister too, I goes. No, she's not, he said. Yes, she is. It went on like this for a while. Then Lindy began to scream at her daughter. Calm down, love. You'll only make her worse, Cleo said, hooking up Lindsay's basque from the back with quick, deft jerks. Lindy was pregnant, 4 months gone, but she'd still chosen a dress that gave her a Miss World figure. So yeah, that gives me very much a kind of Midwest Gothic Americana 60s vibe, even though it was supposed to be the 1980s, but you know what I'm talking about. Very, you know the book by, oh god, if I can remember it now, Play It As It Lays. I love that book so much. One of my favorites. It gives me that kind of vibe. So, that intrigued me, and I decided to pick it up. So, perhaps it might also intrigue you, and you might also get it. So, here's my 3rd book that I got from the used bookstore, and this is called The Collector, and it is by John Fowles. So, this one is about a man who collects people, so quite dark, but that immediately intrigued me. So I was like, okay, I see you. Thriller. No, I love stuff from like perspective of villains or, you know, unreliable narrators and stuff. I think it's so fascinating. And it's really just incredible to see like what a writer's imagination can create, like when they go to that really dark place, you know. It's amazing how some people can make something so convincing and so disturbing, like when they're just like a normal person, you know. And that sometimes they can make you empathize with these people who are like so horrifically awful just because you're reading from their perspective. Some books though are like, some narrators are too awful though, when you just can't empathize at all. But anyway, we'll see how this one is. So here's the first page. When she was home from her boarding school, I used to see her almost every day sometimes, because their house was right opposite the town hall annex. She and her younger sister used to go in and out a lot, often with young men, which of course I didn't like. When I had a free moment for the files and ledgers, I stood by the window and used to look down over the road, over the frosting, and sometimes I'd see her. In the evening, I marked it in my observations diary, at first with X, and then when I knew her name, with M. I saw her several times outside, too. I stood right behind her once in a queue at the library down Crossfield Street. She didn't look once at me, but I watched the back of her head and her hair in a long pigtail, coming down almost to her waist, sometimes in front, sometimes at the back. Sometimes she wore it up, Only once, before she came to be my guest here, did I have the privilege to see her with it loose, and it took my breath away. It was so beautiful, like a mermaid. Another time, one Saturday, off when I went up to the Natural History Museum, I came back on the same train. She sat 3 seats down and sideways to me and read a book, so I could watch her for 35 minutes. Seeing her always made me feel like I was catching a rarity, going up to it very careful, heart in mouth, as they say. A pale clouded yellow, for instance. I always thought of her like that. I mean, words like elusive and sporadic and very refined, not like the other ones, even the pretty ones. More for the real connoisseur. The year she was still at school, I didn't know who she was, only how her father was Dr. Gray, and some talk I overheard once at a bug section meeting about how her mother drank. So yeah, kind of gives me the same vibes of like the show You. I feel like kind of reading from like Joe's perspective. Yeah, I do love a story like that. So I'm definitely gonna give this one a try this summer. And that is my book haul. I will go to my current reads right now, which are okay, trigger warning, this includes self-unaliving, this title, so if you don't want to hear about that, just fast forward a bit. So it is The Virgin Self-Unalivings, and it is so far a masterpiece. I love it so much. I think it is so stunning. Like, it is heartbreaking, but it is so beautiful. The way that it's written, I'm on page 165, and yeah, so I'm close to the end at this point, and I have just been like savoring every page of this because like the prose is just so pretty. Like, even though it's talking about something so dark, but he doesn't miss a sentence. Like, every single sentence is so striking and just poetic, and the imagery is just unreal. Like, as a writer myself, I almost feel jealous while I'm reading that I'm like, damn, I wish I wrote that, because it's so stunning, and it's so impressive as well that like he wrote it from this perspective, like this very distant perspective, that we are reading like from so far back about these girls. It's about this family, the Lisbon girls, and we only know it from the stories of the other neighbors. We don't even get like a specific person who's narrating it. Like, they're not a character. It's just we, like the general we who were observing them. And I think that's so amazing, because there's often like those kinds of people who, are in our lives, like kind of the periphery of our lives, and they're so mysterious, and you hear these stories about them, these tragedies happen and stuff, and there's so much speculation, and they're almost like a myth, like a legend. And I think this book like emulates that so well, and I don't know how it ends yet. I'm still currently reading it, but I think that unless the ending is like, and then we woke up, like, I think I'll probably love it. Yeah, there's not much that this book can do wrong at this point. I think it will just continue being absolutely stunning till the end, but I will update in the future. And my other book that I'm currently reading is The Deloriad, and that one I am trudging through, I will say. I think it's very well written, but it is so dense, and I really want to get through it because it is fascinating, but it is dense. Like, this is a literary novel, but it's just, there's just walls of text for like the whole book, And that I find difficult to read. Or the paragraphs, if there are paragraph breaks, the paragraphs are super, super long. So I don't know what it is about that. Like visually, I get kind of lost and I find it hard to focus. But I think it's really well written, and I'm going to try to stick with it because I find it really fascinating, this concept, this post-apocalyptic concept. And, ooh, book sounds. And, yeah, so those two are my current reads. And let's get on to my recent reads. So, Earthlings. Oh my god. Where do I begin with Earthlings? I think it's probably good to get this one out of the way first because it's like the heaviest of my recent reads. Okay, first of all, I loved this. I'm so glad. I've had so many good recent reads. This is great. This book, I say this about like everything at this point, but this was a masterpiece. No, like seriously, like this is a work of art. This book is so well done. I read like an essay about like the meanings behind this book and everything, and it was so profound. And I mean, like, oh, there's so much that you can just like extract from this book that is so meaningful. And okay, first of all, if you were thinking of reading this book, I hope that you were like me and you have read a lot of disturbing books in your life and nothing bothers you anymore and you are just desensitized to everything, because then you are ready for this book. If not, if you get upset by things, if disturbing things are really bothersome to you, if you get grossed out easily, don't read this book. It has an incredible story and an incredible message, but it delivers it in like a violently disturbing way. Like it like screams it at you. So that is one thing that you have to be ready for if you're going to read this book. If that's what you're looking for, then oh honey, add to cart right now, because it is, yeah, it was sufficiently disturbing. And it's not just, okay, I've seen it listed in like most disturbing books I've read or weirdest books I've read, and yeah, it is very disturbing, but it's also like incredibly heartbreaking and sad, and it is hard to read at times because it is so heartbreaking, like what you see the main character go through. We're looking at this from a perspective of like a child, and what she goes through is horrific. In the first part of the book, the second part we kind of get like a time jump, and she is then an adult and we get to see her life from there. And I mean, it is a fantastic look at what childhood upbringing can do to a person, and how we ignore, you know, signs of, you know, a bad upbringing, of trauma and of things like that, like, and what it does to a person, and how people can try to turn a blind eye to it until it gets so horrific that they can no longer ignore it. And it's so creative the way that this book was written. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever read in my life. And but it is harrowing to read at times, especially that first half as with the main character as a child, that it is very difficult to read her experiences. So I will warn you, that part, it was like painful to get through, but it is worth it for the incredible story that this is. So highly recommend if you are a person like me who likes disturbing books. If not, would not recommend. Okay. My other recent reads, so I don't have these in physical copies, I'm just gonna put a picture somewhere here maybe. my next one was A Court of Thorns and Roses, and this one I read as an audiobook. And I read this while I was just going around my house cleaning. And it was perfect for that because I found on YouTube like an upload of the graphic audiobook. So it has like sound effects and music and really, really good voice acting. So it was very entertaining. It was like, you know, listening to a movie almost, like in your head. And so it was very entertaining. I would say, yeah, this book, okay, well, this one was like a literary masterpiece that destroyed my life. A Court of Thorns and Roses was just an entertaining little fun thing for me to read. And I wouldn't say it was groundbreaking. I wouldn't say it surprised me in any way. Like, it was what I was looking for. You know, I was looking for entertainment, and it delivered. So it's pretty much, if I were to sum it up, it's just Beauty and the Beast, but with fairies. And yeah, it is just a fantasy romance, and it works. I mean, there's also like fantasy romance. The romance is the main plot, but like there is also kind of like an action plot as well. So there's a little bit of everything mixed in there. I do love the fantasy world that it's set in. I think that was my favorite part, just the world building and stuff. I found really magical and very immersive, and it is just a good read. I think it's a good read for an audiobook because it is entertaining, and I think that's the best part. Just, you know, if you just want to listen to something entertaining while you're doing something else, but you need to do your chores or whatever, paint. I also like to listen to audiobooks while I paint, so that's a great one too. Great for the imagination. And yeah, so a good book. Good. Would I say it changed my life? No, but very good. I know that it's like a very beloved book in the fantasy and YA book community. It's not my favorite fantasy and things YA book I've ever read, but it was definitely a really good one. And I will give the second one a shot because I think I've seen somewhere people saying, you know, it starts off pretty good and then as you go, it gets a lot better. So I will definitely check out the next one. I'll probably read it again as an audiobook or listen to it as an audiobook. And yeah, so good book. So my most recent read was The Demon's Bargain, and this is almost just like a novella, but it's just a fantasy romance. It's just a quick, like, it's just fluff, you know, like, but I was just feeling like in a bit of like a reading slump, and I feel like reading stuff like this, especially, okay, I guess like fantasy romance is kind of like my just entertainment, get out of a slump, live in a magical world, pretty and beautiful things, whatever. Like, that's how I kind of get out of my reading slumps. And I just wanted something light and just whatever. I think I saw it recommended somewhere, and the premise was so funny to me for some reason that I was just like, this is gonna be entertaining. And it was just pretty much like a witch summons a demon and they fall in love, pretty much. And I was like, let's go. Like, it was, you know, really short. I was kind of let down at like the very ending, because in like the final kind of battle scene, it was like, it felt like it was gonna be the climax and it was gonna be crazy, and then it was just like over, and then everything was resolved, and then I was just like, okay, whatever, we fixed it. Yeah. So I think it was more like, it wasn't really about that. I guess it was just more about the romance, but like I was invested kind of in like the whole that whole what you call it, I guess the subplot, the like action subplot. I thought it was interesting, but whatever, it's fine. It was entertaining. Would I say it's the best thing I ever read? No. It was fine. I'll give it a fine. It was fine. It wasn't bad, but it was fine. So, yeah, so that is my book haul, my current reads, my recent reads. Let me know if you have read some of the books in my book haul and if any of these are really good and if you recommend some to me, because I would love to hear that. I'd love to hear what you think of them and which ones I should read first, in what order, whatever. And let me know as well what you thought of my recent reads, if you've also read them, if you have opinions. I would love to hear. I love to discuss books, so please discuss with me. I find it very fun. So yeah, clearly, I mean, like, I could ramble forever about these things, but yes, so thank you so much for watching. I hope this was a relaxing video for you and you're able to get some great book recommendations while you just are sitting or lying down being cozy. And I will see you in the next video with some more books in the future, maybe. Let's see. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.